All right, peace, joy, love to everyone. Good afternoon, this wonderful evening here in Washington, D.C. I am so delighted to be here with you and on WGMLB, your wonderful gospel music lovers birthday station. Right here, we're live in the studio and we have a live, exciting program for you today. So, you want to really sit down and if you can, get something to write on, get something to write with, because we have our fantastic guest with us today. Young lady from the Donald Temple Law Firm, and indeed, she is a trailblazer. She is doing a work that will benefit not only here in Washington, D.C., but listen closely, because what we are sharing today could spill over, come over into your community, wherever you are in this country. It's because of the topic we're talking about today. And the topic we are talking about today is so essential, so important, and so vital to everyone because it involves something really that is historical, if you will. Oh, by the way, I am your happy host today, Sister Nia 2X. But without further delay, I want to welcome quickly our wonderful guest, Attorney Pamela Keith. And again, Attorney Pamela Keith is here to tell us about a case that has been filed here in DC. It happens to be a class action lawsuit. And this lawsuit is unprecedented as far as what I know, being that this lawsuit is involving 10 Black, female, current and former and current police officers. Now, hear me good. 10 Black, female, former and current police officers. And these officers are officers of the Metropolitan Police Department, better known as MPD. And then it gets even more egregious because the lawsuit is filed on behalf of the 10 female Black police officers, alleging some of the most serious complaints that involves not only within the police department, but could easily be associated with the community as far as what is taking place. So please sit down, lend your ears, lend your heart, open your heart and ears, and get ready to be a part of the solution. And that's why we have our guest here today. Again, it's my pleasure to welcome Sister Sister Attorney Pamela Keith. And she is here to articulate and give us the facts and details of what is taking place as we move forward in the surge of reaching solutions for our civil and human rights. Attorney Pamela Keith, without further delay, welcome to WGMLB today. Peace to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, Sister Nia, on this important issue. As Nia said, in September of this year, we filed the first ever class action lawsuit on behalf of Black female police officers. And this class action is only for female police officers because our experience is that they suffer in a unique way. Even though there's racism against all African Americans or all Latinos or whatever, the way that Black women experience and are targeted both for their race and their gender and the intersectionality of that is unique, and it's something that needs to be addressed. I'm very proud of the outstanding Black women that I represent in this lawsuit. My law firm, Temple Law Offices, has a robust civil rights practice in the District of Columbia. My mentor, Donald Temple, is well known for rabble rousing on behalf of the community. And so this is an exciting time, and it's a necessary time to start stating that we are no longer going to be accepting treatment as second-class citizens in our businesses and institutions. And in this particular case, we address 4 characteristics of policing, not just policing at MPD, although that is what the case is about. It's policing generally. 4 characteristics that create, foster, and lead to the blue code of silence, the intimidation and bullying of police officers to remain silent and to not be transparent to the public and to hide what is going on behind closed doors in police departments, which inevitably bleeds over into what's going on as police engage our community.
I don't mean to interrupt you, because this is really huge. This is not just a small issue. When we, the public, think about the police department, we have a trust, we have an expectation. And when we hear and about to hear some of the serious complaints that are taking place in a major police department, as indicated right here in Washington, D.C., and it just becomes very, very shocking. And when you talk about complaints, a lot of people just leave it at that level, Attorney Pamela Keith. They leave it as complaining. They cry about it, and they should, and really don't do anything about it. Today's program is not only focusing on just the complaints. We are focusing on what your law firm is doing and has done in the forefront. I mean, the seriousness of what you've done in this city to make sure that these complaints from a class action lawsuit on behalf of the 10 plaintiffs is really growing legs. I mean, people are buzzing and they want to know, as we get into the program a little more, what other solutions you have with the law firm in helping to secure justice for the 10 Black female police officers. Can you go a little bit into some of the complaints that you received initially? And as you stated, September, that's 2021, you were called, contacted. Take us from there to where we are today before we go into where we are tomorrow.
Well, they actually contacted me way back at the beginning of this, late spring and beginning of the summer. It takes that long to really work a case and get your facts right. So Nia, like I said, the claims between these 10 Black women were so similar. They were about sexual harassment. They were about being denigrated and treated like second-class citizens, held to different standards, an environment in the workplace where sexist comments, racist comments, disrespectful comments and behavior was totally tolerated. Bullying and isolation and retaliation was completely accepted, where their officials, their sergeants and lieutenants would use their power to give them the worst assignments, to deny them overtime, to deny their vacation requests, to deny them training, to force them in departments they didn't want to be in, or force them out of departments they were happy in, to deny them promotions or make them wait for promotions that they had earned for a year or more when they should have been put in those positions right away. And they would watch themselves exist in MPD under just a totally different standard than their white male counterparts. And they saw it in big ways and little ways over and over again. And when they started to complain about it, that is when the wheels truly came off, because it wasn't like their complaints were ever taken seriously. They were treated as pariahs if they complained. The theory being, you need to put up and shut up and take it. And if you don't, if you stand up for yourself, if you speak up for yourself, then you are going to be railroaded out of here, because we get to decide who's going to be an officer and who's not, because of who we like, not who's good at the job.
And one interesting fact about the case that you're working on is that the 10 Black female police officers were not at the same district. They were not at the same precinct. These complaints and this behavior that you are telling us about was taking place throughout the Metropolitan police department throughout the city, Black women in particular being treated, as you stated, less than women, second class citizens, and egregious conduct is listed in some of these complaints. I mean, these are some serious complaints of, again, the police department, who we depend on, who we call on when there's a need, because our tax dollars indeed pay their salaries. So I wanted to make sure that the audience understands, and we know these complaints take place just about in the workplace around the country. But when you talk about policing, it gives it a certain vital interest, because again, this is going on within the police department, and to, in particular, Black female police officers. So from the complaints that you received, how did you get in contact with other precincts that have now led to the 10 officers in the class action lawsuit?
I mean, they came to me organically. The women talked to other women within the department. There were so many who have filed complaints over the years. They've all been treated very similarly. They've been disregarded, disrespected, denigrated, dismissed, and ignored. So it wasn't hard to find. And by the way, these 10 women are just the tip of the iceberg. Our phones are ringing off the hook with other people with complaints against MPD. Some of them, most of them Black women, but a whole lot of people who are not Black women too, right? I mean, this is a systemic thing of bullying people into silence, and managing people through intimidation. That is the culture of MPD. And it has been the culture of MPD for some time. It has been a culture that is taught at the very entry level of policing, at the cadet level, that if they report misconduct, if they speak the truth about what their fellow officers are doing, they're going to get completely railroaded. And if they shut up and just let everything go, they're going to be just fine. If you just shut up and keep your head down, you'll be fine. But if you speak up, you're going to be retaliated against. You're going to be bullied. You're going to be falsely accused. You're going to have your work performance falsely disparaged. You're going to have your reputation disparaged. You're going to not get back up on the job when you call for backup. You're going to get isolated and treated hostilely. You're going to have people tell lies on you and accuse you falsely, so that you're constantly trying to defend yourself. You're going to be put on performance improvement plans unfairly, so that you're constantly under scrutiny. And eventually, the cumulative weight of all of the things that are done to you will make you choose to quit, or will be the basis to terminate you.
And one thing you mentioned too, attorney, you said that the complaints alleged sexual, racial, but it certainly is a lot of retaliation in
everybody
us as well.
Yeah, not everybody had a sexual assault claim. Not everybody had a sexual harassment claim, but everybody had a retaliation claim.
So when you speak up, they make you feel, it sounds like they make you feel like you should not have spoke up and did what was right, did what was moral, and did what was correct. And for that, you're gonna take this particular behavior, or not behavior, but treatment, and should I say mistreatment, from the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. And I say Washington, D.C. a lot because this is the nation's capital. And people just wouldn't believe, unless they were involved in it, what these 10 Black women have gone through. And I applaud them, as well as around the city. A lot of people are eyes on this particular case. They want to know how they can get involved to, first of all, get more information. Is it okay for you to name some of the egregious behaviors that these women have come on local television?
Right. It's all public information, Nia, now. It's in a public filing. I mean, there was an allegation that one of my plaintiffs was retaliated against because she reported her fellow officer for threatening the life of Michelle Obama. He showed her the gun that he was planning to use to assassinate the First Lady of the United States. Now, I want to make clear that they are on presidential security detail. It's not like he wouldn't have access. So she reported him, and the minute that she did, she was retaliated against and isolated and bullied. Her the only person who would provide backup for her is her own husband, who was a detective. That kind of thing. We have a person who was in a van with her fellow officers, kind of cruising through the city, and one of them takes his penis out and urinates in a bottle in the car, not asked to pull over and go in the woods or go in a business or something, as if she wasn't even in the car. I mean, who does that? It was so disrespectful, and it was jocular, and they were laughing as if this was perfectly okay. But can you imagine in your workplace somebody doing something like that? It's just an outrage. There were multiple cases of sexual harassment, being grabbed, kissed against their will, their body parts commented on, and if they complained about it, they would be told it was no big deal. Like, don't worry about it. Can't we just move past it, and not disciplining the officers who engaged in that. So there's just a lot of different kinds of allegations, but the reality is that the allegations individually are really less important than the allegations in the aggregate. The aggregate of the allegations tell a story. They say, hey, we've got a systemic problem that's predicated on 4 things. It's predicated on disrespect by and between officers, and a culture that allows hazing and bullying and intimidation and disrespect. It's predicated on abuse of power, very profound abuse of power, that sense that once I get the badge and I get the power, I get to do what I want. And if I have authority over you, there's nothing you could do to stop me. The third is EEO, which is very corrupted at MPD. It does not work to get to the bottom of allegation. It works to try to prove that they're wrong, not try to find out if they're right, but prove that they're wrong. They work as defense counsel for the chief of police, which is not the way EEO is supposed to function at all. And also, when the senior management decides they don't like someone, that they will literally, quote unquote, manage that person out, which is another way of saying bully, retaliate, intimidate, and harass them out, because they think that that's a perfectly acceptable way to manage their cadre of police. They think that this is, somehow police departments are somehow totally different than every other kind of workplace in America. And because their job is so important, they get to push people out that they don't like or don't want to work with. And that is something that comes from on top. It is something that is co-signed and bought into by the entire enterprise. Everybody knows when somebody is being targeted. They call them something. Oh, they're hot. That means that management doesn't like them. You're on the hot seat. Everybody knows it. And everybody thinks that that's an acceptable way for a workplace to function. It is acceptable to have somebody so isolated and so bullied and so intimidated. Everybody in the enterprise knows they're on their way out because they're being pushed out. And nobody thinks, hey, wait a minute, that's not right.
Nobody stopped it. And right here in the DMV, just about last year, it's not an isolated problem. Here in PG County, Maryland, some of the same similar vile complaints took place, but because of people like yourself, law firms, the community, the public, powerful public opinion, that police chief was ousted out for not doing anything, for not taking the complaints serious. Now, this wasn't complaints against 10 Black female police officers, but those complaints were against people of color on the police force.
It was more broad.
On the police force that are expected to come out. And it sounds like with your case, as their case, they're battling with their own department, and then they have to come out into the community and put their lives on the line in order to earn their 8 hours, 16 hours overtime, or what have you. And it's just so completely unacceptable. We're happy to have you here today. And we're happy that you and, of course, Donald Temple are on this particular case, because the way you articulated, the few words you have just said are really shocking to people that are hearing this. And again, what your law firm does is just not leave it on the complaint level. Your law firm has already had one successful, well-attended town hall meeting. Not to mention, people can look online and get information, up to date information, when you took the case or your law firm took the case, to even get more, to see the officers, for an example, to hear the officers speak. So that's what we want. We want more community involvement, because the community is involved whether they like it or not, because again, the police have to answer to your calls.
Right.
Just think, attorney Pam, just think now, I call the police, I'm a DC resident, I'm a black female, I'm expecting my tax dollars to help me out with whatever I'm calling the police for. And there's a particular mindset, probably against all women, maybe people of color, but in this case, certainly 10 black police female officers. And I don't know what to think when I hear this. I don't even feel safe calling the police if they treat their own like this. But getting back to the solutions, before, and if you have something to say prior to what else your law firm is doing to reach the solutions, to make sure the community is well informed and hopefully well involved in the solutions to this class action lawsuit. What is taking place just this week, unless you have something else you want to add before we talk about some more serious solutions to very serious complaints?
Well, so first things first, we're not going to get solutions unless we're clear about the problem. So what we have been doing and what Donald and I have been doing is moving people into a clear understanding of the problem and why a particular solution will actually address that problem. For example, I talk about the corruption of EEO and the Internal Affairs Department. These are the people who police the police, but they answer to the chief of police. They are directly in the chain of command of the chief of police. And so they think their job is to defend the chief, not to fix these problems. So I am recommending, and others are recommending, that that is the wrong structure, that EEO and Internal Affairs needs to answer directly to the city council, not to the chief of police. And if they answer directly to the city council, they're supervised and responding to the folks we elect to lead the city and to act with oversight over the police department. That is how we get true oversight. It's when the people engaged in oversight also have their their finger on the pulse of what is going on. If you move EEO and IAD out from under the chief of police and make them answer directly to the city council, those professionals will not feel like their careers are in jeopardy if they report the senior brass for misconduct. They won't feel like they have to keep their mouth shut and play favorites and do clicks and favor the white officers and throw the book at the black officers. They don't do that anymore because now they're under a different kind of they're under different kind of leadership with a different kind of mission. You're going to get totally different results if you make that kind of structural change. Another structural change that we are recommending is that there be an equity review process, not just for MPD, for all of the departments of the District of Columbia government, where if a supervisor or a manager makes a decision that is negative to an employee, the employee has a mechanism to ask for a review of that decision in 48 hours. They write a simple electronic inquiry, and somebody that is in the equity review process is not looking for EEO. They're just looking to see if this person is being a jerk to you and why, right? And the very existence of a process to ascertain whether somebody is abusing their power is going to stave them off from abusing their power. And every time an inquiry is made on a supervisor or manager, a record is made of that in a database. And over time, you will start to see the supervisors and managers who constantly abuse their power to the detriment of their subordinates. That's how you manage them out. You don't manage out people because of their race. You don't manage out people because you don't like them. And you don't manage out people because they complain about the way they're treated. You manage out people who abuse their power. You manage out people who feel like it's perfectly okay to make people around them miserable for no other reason than to make them miserable. That is the kind of abuse of power that we see in MPD, but we also see it in other departments in the District of Columbia. If we set that equity review process, you are going to dramatically reduce the number of people who sue the District of Columbia for unfair treatment, for EEO violations, and for abuse of power.
I want you to go back as well with the first well-attended town hall meeting, very effective. The community came out, and I want to acknowledge the men that came out. This lawsuit is not against men or any particular race. The men came out and spoke up, and some of them were former police officers who admitted that they saw and witnessed some of their female officers go through just unthinkable tactics as you named. So I wanted to make sure that the audience here, WGMLB, know that this is not an attack against one particular sect or one particular group. This class action, lawsuit is it names names. It has particular people that should have and were responsible to really squash the complaints a long time ago. There is just unacceptable reasons that we're here at a class action lawsuit because people really failed to do their jobs. You are paid as a supervisor. When you wear that brass, when you wear that stripe, you have accountability to take care of your subordinates. And when they come to you with a complaint the very first time, really, it should be handled at a serious level in order that if it has to go above that person's head, then it's clearly handled. But with these 10 Black women, I mean, we're talking about years. Is that right, attorney?
Yeah, the look back goes, the actual liability window is 10 years back, but the narratives go all the way back to the 80s and 90s when some of these women joined the MPD. A lot of my plaintiffs have been there since the 80s. Right? They're 35-year plaintiffs, police officers, and the city's attitude is to date has been, we don't care. I mean, collectively, they have more than 235 years of service to our city, and the city couldn't care less. So I think the only way we proceed and the only way we move forward is to stay on it. And the lawsuit that we filed in September was not the only one. We filed another one in October on behalf of cadets who were retaliated against as whistleblowers. And there's more litigation to be filed. We're not giving up. Our goal is to keep suing until they hear us, because until they start seeing that this is just not going to stop. I'm just going to keep on filing complaints because my phone keeps ringing.
And I'm glad you said that again. We need the community to continue to be involved, regardless if you live in Washington, D.C. And why that is important, where you may visit here, you may have family, friends here. It's the nation's capital. We already have problems down at the U.S. Capitol, January 6th, and just yesterday or over the weekend, there were groups of racists that went into the Capitol this weekend. So they're
on the Capitol, not in the Capitol. They didn't breach. They were on the mall, but they didn't breach. I was like,
I saw them coming down the steps. Thank you for the correction. I had thought they had went in and observed whatever they were supposed to do. But the point being made is there are other groups that are also insulting out here to keep our eyes on. And this that's going on in the police department should be halted immediately. But this lawsuit from the Temple lawsuit, what is the Temple Law? What is the correct name? I said Donald Temple Law's firm. What is the correct name of your law firm?
Temple Law Offices is the name of our practice. And if you're paying attention to what's going on at Howard University, then you will know what my law partner, Donald Temple, has been up to.
All right now. Yeah, because you are very, very active, very, very intelligent, very, very smart. On top of it, you have a winning case, but we want to secure our win even more, especially to the DMV residents here in our area, because we're dealing with activists with the Temple Law firm. With the Temple Law firm, we're dealing with activists. We're dealing with people that can get the job done, but it's nothing like the power of public opinion. This is what helped the Honorable Reverend Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, and all of those that kept the civil rights issues in the public, the NAACP, many organizations, the local activists there in Brunswick, Georgia. When people get involved, it's power to the people. And when people get involved, especially with issues like this, you wouldn't want to come to your nation's capital and get pulled over and then be subjected to unbelievable hostility and other things that could go along with it. So the Temple Law Firm and our attorney today, Attorney Pamela Keith, they are out here and they are doing something, and we could do it faster, we could do it wiser, and we could really make our footprint count, our work count, if we could also have the public call, have the public get more educated about this, have the public involved. Some of you can sign an online petition. I mean, you don't really have to always come out all the time, but do something, because it benefits not only the 10 Black courageous females. They had to be courageous to come forward. Some still on the job, others have retired, but all together, that takes a lot of courage, because some of the officers that talked on your first town hall meeting, their stories were worse than anything Halloween could put together. We're dealing with reality.
We're dealing with reality. You said a word, Sister Nia, but I think it's really important that the audience understands their role in all of this. In 10 months or less, these people in June, in 6 months, these people are going to be asking for your vote to be reelected into leadership roles in the District of Columbia. You have to ask yourself, is this a person that represents me? Do they care about what I care about? Because they can't ignore 10 Black women and then another 3 Black women and then some more Black women and say, oh, yeah, but we really need Black women. They're the backbone of our society. Really? So I think you have to be very, very careful about who you're voting for, and also hold your leaders to a higher standard. Demand that they actually respond to your concerns, demand that they listen to you. And, people underestimate just how much impact their presence in a city councilman's office or on their email actually makes. We think we're being ignored, but the reality is that they do pay attention to this stuff, especially in election season. They pay attention to this stuff. They're trying to figure out, well, how does this make me look? And so we have the power here. We have the power here to make them pay attention if we use our power collectively to make them pay attention and to come to the table. So that's what I'm asking of the audience. I'm asking that, to the extent that you have a phone, pick it up and call your city council member and ask them what they're doing about this class action. To the extent you have an email, use it to send an email to your city council member and to the mayor's office asking about this case. To the extent that you have social media, please use it to advance this issue and talk about it. We are having another town hall on Wednesday of this week. That's day after tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. at Bethlehem Baptist Church on Martin Luther King Avenue in Northeast DC.
It's Southeast
DC. It is very important that the community come out and show their support and listen to this solution. This particular panel discussion is going to be very interesting because it's narrowly focused on solutions and why those solutions would actually address the things and prevent the things that these plaintiffs have actually gone through. Because that's how people understand it. They'll understand it when you say, well, okay, well, what happened to me was when I asked for so-and-so, all these white male officers got it and I didn't, and I didn't know what to do about it. Well, would an equity review process have actually fixed that? Answer, probably, right? So that's how you marry up the solution with an understanding of the problem and a comprehension that this solution would actually fix the problem. That's how we move the needle forward, because once the community comes to consensus that these proposals would actually work and make a difference, then we can go to the mayor and the city council and go, hey, you're going to support this, not give us a good solution. That's not how corporate America does it. They don't go to the Congress and say, hey, we need a solution for this, that, or the other thing. They say, hey, we just wrote your solution for this. You're going to vote for it.
And it's so important, as you stated, an election year, you really have their ear. Power concedes nothing without a demand, as said by Frederick Douglass. And a lot of people don't even participate in the political process. I mean, a large population of people have just really threw their hands up and says, this whole thing is a bunch of garbage and
Right.
I'm not making time and I don't have time. And it's just that mindset. It is just that particular person who's pulled over from one of these officers, and your rights have been violated, your conduct, you've been so mistreated. You are searching for answers and solutions. Well, here's a group of people that hear you. We hear you, you hear us. Let's unite. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that our unity is more powerful than an atomic or atom bomb put together. We have a lot of potential for unity. And again, when we look at the past, when we see the NAAC president, Mr. Johnson, and the Honorable Reverend Sharpton, and many other people, Jesse Jackson, when we see the unity of our leaders, our contemporary leaders today, we're seeing results. We just saw 3 men who murdered Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick. And when that happened, I'm sure you know, Pamela Keith, that when that happened, the Attorney General and many of the police department, they did nothing.
Absolutely.
They did nothing for months. But guess how we know about that case? It was the power of the people, the power of the activists. They would not give up. They continued to march. It was a small little fire that turned into an inferno, because now people around the country saw the video when the police department in Brunswick tried to cover it up. In fact, they did cover it up. They said, we don't have anything here. You fellas go home. And they did for months. So this is the same thing in many cases.
Exactly. It's that.
Let us take to the streets, not only at the town hall meeting, but continue to keep up with this particular case. Because if you win, and you should win, Attorney Pamela Keith, what type of precedents would that set up around the country when it comes to police brutality and the like?
Exactly right. This is a good blueprint on how to move forward. But the city's going to fight us on every technicality they can come up with. And because they're not interested in resolution, right? They're interested in trying to figure out how to make this go away. And so, okay, I understand that the legal process is a very extended process, and class actions are very costly and time consuming and so forth. And that's that. I get it. They're gonna fight us, and we're gonna fight back. That's what we do. But in the meantime, if there are any questions out there in the audience, I'd love to take, to answer any questions that anybody might have while I'm here, where we have a few more minutes. I feel very passionately about this issue, and I'm just, whether or not they move to dismiss this one, well, guess what? We got 30 more in the wings. We'll just keep on filing complaints, right? You move the dismiss one, we'll move to we'll bring 5 more, we'll bring 10 more, we'll bring 50 more, because we're never going to run out of people who are ready to for justice in the MPD. And
let's talk about real quick with the few minutes left, how people can get to the petitions. Explain that to us about the
links should be on the NAN. You have the links, Sister Nia, for people to see the petition, so that you can put it out. And if you want to see the live stream of the town hall, because you cannot attend in person, just go to NAACPDC.org. It's going to be streaming on the NAACP website. That's NAACPDC.org, 7:30 p.m. Wednesday night, for the live town hall. Super important that everybody pay attention and start to listen as to how we move into the space of real solutions. Not solutions that just say, oh, we're going to take all their money. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the culture of policing from within, and that's what the solutions that are going to be proposed on Wednesday night really plan to do.
And I hope people do tune in. That's Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. Be sure to tune in. And we have so many problems going around the country, the world, the city, what have you. But we have a lot of solutions that is not gaining the attention. In fact, we have more solutions to many of these problems that people are hearing about all day long. It seems mainstream media likes to highlight problems and not talk about solutions as if to minimize those. But here at WGMLB, you're going to get information like this, and you know yourself, you get information like this all the time, not to mention great gospel music and so many other radio programs here on this wonderful network. Today, as you are learning and hearing, we have a wonderful, powerful guest who is representing the Temple Law Firm right here in Washington, D.C. As mentioned, go to on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Please, of all means, go to naacpdc.org and know, audience, that the Greater DC chapter of National Action Network, the National Congress of Black Women, and other groups here in the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia, we are uniting. We are coming together to work together because the goal is the right goal. Nobody should have to go through what these 10 Black female police officers have gone through. And as our guest said today, you're talking about back to the 1980s.
Yes.
So we're going to let you have the closing remarks, of course. Sister Attorney Pamela Keith.
Well, thank you so much again. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. If you want to try to get in touch with our law firm, you can do so at info@templelawoffices.com. That's info@templelawoffices.com. That is our website. Our email address. And again, this is not a problem that's unique to DC. This is policing reform is something that affects all of the country, and we need to start locally and build from the grassroots up. And so we are just hopeful and grateful for your assistance in joining our grassroots effort to make our police departments start to reflect our community and serve our community in the way we want to be served, because the power that we giveth, we can also take it away. And that is the message that is trying to be sent to the community. Be invested, care about this, care about how Black women are treated in the workforce. They are the bellwether of how our country is doing. And if Black women are doing badly in an enterprise, that enterprise is probably not treating people very well. So, check out how Black women are being treated, because that's going to tell you a lot about that enterprise.
This is Pamela. This is Attorney Pamela Keith, and we know that we want to get behind your leadership. I know that the Greater DC Chapter National Action Network, founded by the Honorable Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, and many others, have serious eyes on this case, and we're here to help. We're here to support. We're here to do everything we can to secure the victory, because when they win, we win. And then we have a police department. Again, we pay your salary. You get your salary from us. And we're not paying for the type of treatment. And we're only talking inside of the police department. This portion of the program is sponsored by the largest homeless shelter in DC is the Mitch Snyder shelter. Listen, every Saturday, beginning May 2020, there's a group of advocates who have come every week without failure to provide and support residents of the shelter with wholesome food, clean clothes, toiletries, and leading the charge is Queen Jennifer Jalencia, head of the new royal family. So we're asking the people in the DMV if you can make time this coming Saturday. I believe that's the 11th, could be the 10th, but I believe it's the 11th. This Saturday, to come down to the Mitch Snyder shelter, 425 2nd Street, Northwest DC, for 2 hours or less, because that's another problem that is a working solution in hand. I guess they didn't make the news, but there's so many solutions taking place. Back to our guest, Attorney Pamela Keith. Is there a phone number or a email you can give out again so that people can reach your law firm?
Sure. My email again is info@templelawoffices.com. info@templelawoffices.com. That's how you can reach our law firm. And you can go to the NAACPDC.org to see the live stream of the town hall on Wednesday night.
Well, I'm really honored and proud of the work you're doing. You look like you don't ever get tired. I mean, the type of work, well, you look like you don't. You know, you're always answering your telephones. You're always there. You're very reliable. And then, like you mentioned earlier in the interview, when you talk about Donald Temple and his reputation here in D.C., this is a win. And I can guarantee myself, at least, that the Metropolitan Police Department is on edge, because
we shall see. Like I said, we're gonna keep playing offense, not defense, because this culture needs to change.
And Bethlehem Baptist Church, there on Martin Luther King. What is that address again, please?
You would ask me. I don't know the address off the top. It's between 2nd and D Streets in DC Southeast.
Yeah, it's on Martin Luther King. If people want to know, please call 202.
Top of my head, sorry.
No problem. 202-819-7134, or look online, Bethlehem Baptist Church on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, Southeast DC. It's a very popular church. It's well known for hosting programs like this, Bethlehem Baptist Church. And even more, come out, because we are getting our city back. They're not going to do it. It's going to be up to you and I and great leaders like those from Temple Law Offices, Donald Temple, and co-attorney, our dear sister, our guest today, Sister Attorney Pamela Keith, who they are marching, and we are marching right behind them. So I want to thank you for coming on, and thank WGMLB for having us. Keep up the great work. And I hope people have all the contact information. If not, one more time, 202-819-7134. Thank you, Attorney Pamela Keith, for coming on and sharing with us today. And we look forward to seeing you Wednesday evening.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.